Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nericus Ryan and today I'm joined by
Nerex Dave,
Nathan Ardark,
Ted.
Join us as we fight through this latest Unearthed Arcana!
jump down the description below where you can find Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Alright, so we get yet another Unearthed Arcana. This time we're focusing on the fighter, and we get a deviation from the norm because now we get 4.
We are getting 4 of the fighter, which there's already a bunch of anyway. Right? There's literally 4 official ones. And then we also have a couple Unearthed Arcanas as well.
Right.
But I will say, the knight that they put into this Unearthed Arcana blows the Cavalier out of order, is a much better Cavalier.
I will say that once we actually get through it, there is a repeat ability across the second through 4th.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, I mean, it's a nice ability, but, in a discussion Ryan and I were having, it's like, how often is that going to come up?
Yeah, well, we'll cross that bridge once we get to it. Once we go to that drawbridge.
All right, so first we have the Arcane Archer, which is a repeat from 3rd edition.
Yes, I actually thought this one was pretty freaking amazing. This was a really solid archetype, and they did a good job of bringing back the Arcane Archer without actually making him a spellcaster.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, so I would have loved to have had the prestige classes from 3rd edition handy to look at it, but unfortunately Ted didn't have it handy right now. It's in the attic, but at some point we'll be able to do that. So
I've got so many books.
So I think it was Ronan Gregg said something about he had a problem with it. You only get to use the ability twice up until 15th level as far as their archery thing, but they get it back there after a short rest, right?
Right.
So you can get it a bunch of times.
if you get in your short rest, like the Warlock, if you get in your short rest, it's really great.
The play style is going to really determine how you're actually playing in your game. If you're not taking short rests, well, then all of the reset abilities are going to be wonky for you.
And I would say, as a rule, like 2 or 3 short rests during the session of the average adventuring day, like that seems reasonable that your players would get 2 to 3. You're gonna stop for meals. You're gonna get off your feet for a little bit. I mean, unless you're force marching somewhere, like you're probably gonna stop 2 or 3 times in a day.
Yeah, when I think of our own camp, so we don't do a lot of encounters,
Right?
So that's what it comes down to is like how long are your game sessions and how many encounters are you doing? Like if you're doing a dungeon crawl, then yeah, this kind of stuff is brutal because in a dungeon crawl there probably isn't a lot of time for taking.
There's no safe spaces.
Yeah,
safe spaces.
You're not going to be. Well, we have to refer to our infuriating spells video.
Yes. Yeah, unless you're gonna lay him in this tiny hut. Yeah.
Up you go.
Or rope trick it.
Rope trick, yeah. So yeah, like Ted said, it's going to depend a lot on your play style. That being said, the abilities that you're given are really cool. The arcane shots, they're fun, they're flavorful. They give you cool abilities that aren't actually spells, but they're very spell-like.
Now, the fighters, they get their archetypes at 3rd level, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you get the ability to create a magic arrow at 3rd level, which, some of the other classes don't get the magic effect until much later. Typically 5th, 6th level, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 5th level is Druid and Monk.
Having it at 3rd, that's an advantage, especially for the fighter who is supposed to be the one dishing out damage.
Now, the only problem with this one is, like we mentioned, is in a combat you get you can bust out 2 magic arrows. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you can also use your arcane shot feature, which is really cool. And you start out, you get 2 of them. In some ways, it kind of mimics the Battlemaster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they've reflavored it so it doesn't feel like that at all.
Right.
At 3rd level, you also get a couple skills. I like that part about it as well. You get 2 instead of 1, like the Battlemaster. So you're going to get you're a little bit more versatile in that regards as far as fighters go. You're probably not going to ever run out of arrows once you hit 7th level because you can always just summon them.
Yeah. Boom! I got arrows.
So they kind of threw that in there.
Well, that's a ribbon ability, but it's cool.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Well, 7th level across fighter is typically the ribbon ability.
Yeah.
15th level, you get Ever Ready Arrow. Conjure forth a magic-infused arrow more often than before. 1 minute after expending the last remaining use of your arcane arrow, you gain 1 use of it. So So instead of being like every short rest, you're going to get basically
Twice the combat.
Well, no, twice, and then you'll have one a minute later.
One arrow a minute
always
level,
every minute is kind of the thing. You always at least have one in your back pocket if you have a minute between fights, basically.
So this makes them a powerful drawn out siege or campaign, kind of where you're on battlements or something. But for a regular adventure, you probably only get maybe one.
Yeah, a unit of arcane archers would be of 15th level would be devastating.
Oh yeah, 15th level.
Unit of anything, 15th level would be.
So you get everyone's going to sing tales about you because you never run out of arrows and they do awesome things.
Yeah, but no. That being said, like even at third level, a unit of these guys in that instance where you literally could take a short rest, even though there's a war going on. You go out, you do your thing a couple times, and then they bring in the next shift, and then you just rotate them out.
Yeah, yeah. No, that absolutely works, and I could absolutely see in the way that martial adept feat works. I could see a feat that gives you some of the capability of this build. As maybe you get one or two of the capabilities of the arrow and maybe a use per short rest or something like that. So to get the flavor of the arcane archer without going full bore into the archetype.
Right.
So when you use the arcane, your arcane shot, right? You always do the extra damage, the 2d6 force damage.
You get the extra damage, and you get one of these effects.
So that's the other thing. Like you're getting an effect that you like twice per short rest. You're doing 2d6 bonus damage. You're getting an effect. At 18th level, you get Deadly Shot, which increases it by...
Increases it to 4d6.
Increases it to 4d6. And one of the shots is one where you actually increase the damage anyway. So, like, you can hit hard twice.
It's like arrow smiting.
It is like an arrow of smiting. For that paladin that wanted to be ranged that couldn't, so he had to be a fighter. You get a list of arcane shots. You have Beguiling Arrow. You have Brute Bane Arrow. You have Bursting Arrow, Defending Arrow, Grasping Arrow, Piercing Arrow, Seeking Arrow, Shadow Arrow. And they have a multitude of different combat control effects, basically. Or they do more damage.
Less options than the Battlemaster, but all things that are geared specifically towards ranged stuff. I think it's pretty cool, and because it's magic related, you can do things that differ from what the Battlemaster does.
Well, and the other thing is, I believe most, if not all of these, no saving throw.
Right.
The effect just happens.
Well, yeah, because it's like anything you have to roll to hit to use the ability, it just happens. So that's kind of what they went with that. I mean, it being a kicker ability, because the damage is already happening, the saving throw is justifiable, but they're like, this is the core mechanic of this class.
Right.
So let's just have it happen.
Yeah, so it makes sense. They're cool. I don't think we need to go over each individual one.
Arrow.
But the Seeking Arrow, I will say, it's very Robin Hood Men in Tights. Like when he fires the shot at the target, he the guy tips his arrow, and then this is the Patriot Arrow, and loops back around, goes under the stands, and then explodes out the back of the target.
Well, or if you're into Guardians of the Galaxy, Yondu from the comics could whistle, like his race could, they were like shamans, but they could whistle and control the arrows.
Yeah.
He does a little bit of it in Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, too, where he just throws it in the air, and he gives the whistle, and it just spoiler, by the way. The second one's about to come out. You're not a real fan if you haven't seen it yet. Anyway.
There we go.
All right, so then we move on to the Knight, and as you guys mentioned, that the Knight kicks the Cavalier's butt.
Oh yeah, this is way better. It's way more thematic. It's cooler. I would want to play this archetype.
It's pretty bad.
So,
if you don't want to be a religiously high holy roller paladin, the Knight is a nice alternative.
Third level, you get Born to the Saddle. Dismounting only costs you 5 feet instead of the half. And
you always land on your feet.
And you always land on your feet, unless you're incapacitated. Or you fall more than 10 feet.
The nice thing with the mounted stuff, they made them ribbon abilities. So that it adds to it, but it's not a core mechanic because
you're not always in the saddle.
Yeah, unless you're a small character, you're not going to be using it very often.
And we have yet another marking situation, which harkens back to 4th edition.
Yes.
Oh, I mark him! So I'm certain there's people that are gonna, raise eyebrows or raise a stink at the mechanic, being there.
Well, that being said, there's a lot of people that just out and out skipped 4th edition because of what they were hearing about it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's lots of new people that have just started playing, and there's people that haven't really played since 2nd edition that have come back to this edition, and so marking may not really...
I was talking...
Then there's just a certain number of people that miss certain things from 4th edition. And
Yeah, so that's going to please those people. So,
Right.
I think by and large,
I talked to somebody, earlier that's like, yeah, I played 1, I played 3, I played 5.
Yeah.
I skipped the evens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Ty? I think Ty
It was
said
Ty.
that.
Well-
I passed my knowledge Ty check.
Yeah. Crit!
So with when you mark the target, they have a disadvantage to attack anyone other than yourself.
Unless they can't be frightened, then they're immune to this ability. They're like, up yours, buddy. You're not so scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, guy.
No marking those golems. Sorry.
So does that mean you're basically up on them and you're always harrying them? You're always in contact.
You're
with
in their
them.
face.
Yeah, your blade's always there. They smack him around.
So the way this is worded, though, I think the mark and several other things are going to take effect even with forced movement, because attacks of opportunity do not
Correct.
come into play during forced movement. But the way this is worded, unless there's just
It just says if they move.
yes.
Right.
And it's like, wait a second, they move a foot. There is no foot increments. It's 5 blocks.
Yeah, so if they're remotely pushed...
If you're playing Theory of the Mind and you're not using it, so in some ways they really have gotten away from the grid and things that could be construed as 4th editionisms.
Well, so the idea of basically if they move a foot is, say, a Thunderwave spell effects, like them falling prone, or I guess it's the
push
push.
back
It's the
10 feet,
push,
yeah.
but there might be other spells that knock somebody prone. If they're knocked prone, kind of that's moving a foot because they were standing and now they're not. So you can swipe them on the way down, in some of these abilities.
Yeah,
I would
so
think.
if they fall for any reason, they're gonna.
You're a masterful swordsman and you're ready to take advantage of whatever happens.
Yeah, they move, you get an extra attack, you get a bonus on that damage. I think it's cool, it's useful. It gives you another use for your reaction, but we do get into a wonky situation here.
So
with
there's
this
a
ability.
couple of these things spread throughout this document, and I don't know whether I've brought you around to my way of thinking, but my interpretation of this is it says you can use your reaction to do this thing, and there's a couple of them that
Can we
have it.
read the exact
Yeah, we should
verbiage?
actually read
Yeah,
it. You can make this special attack even if you have already expended your reaction this round. Okay, that makes sense to me. But not if you have already used your reaction this turn.
It's what? Round, turn, how, what? It's really weird.
It is very weird.
So
Maybe it should be the other way around. Maybe it should be you can use it within the turn, but maybe you only get one reaction on your turn and another reaction at another time.
So the way I interpret it is you have your round, you have your individual thing that you're doing, and then there is the turn where everybody has a chance to go. So let's suppose you are a fighter wizard and you have the ability to use the shield spell. Someone's attacked you, you've used your reaction to cast shield.
And you used it on their round,
Right.
when they were going.
And then this happens, and you now have the ability to use this thing, but you've already used your reaction so far, so you're still allowed to do this.
Yeah.
Now, if for some reason multiple enemies are going, and you have already used this ability, and somehow it's triggered again, because you've already used it this turn, you don't get to do it again.
And
That's my interpretation, and it's...
They need cleaner verbiage, but that seems like
And it makes sense because you can use it up to 3 times before a short rest or a long rest. So the idea is you can't use
can't
it 3
spam it
in
on the
one,
same
bam,
time.
bam.
Yeah. And it's funny too, I was thinking about with feat design, something that maybe let you do something that could essentially give you a bonus reaction in the round to do a certain thing. We'll see if that might be a thing that happens in the design logic, because it's creeping in right here.
Well, I mean, we've already house ruled weapons of speed. Essentially gives you a bonus action just for that weapon.
I don't know. You guys, you can explain. Please explain it to me down in the comments below.
In the argument section.
Can we have Jeremy Crawford to come over here and leave a comment for us and explain it?
So then we move on to 7th level, the Noble Cavalry.
So, Chris Calvary, this one goes out to you, obviously.
But they spelled his name wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wah wah.
So at 7th level, you get some proficiencies. You get 2 of animal handling, history, insight, persuasion, religion, or a language.
So if you're playing a human or a half-elf knight or arcane archer at this point, you're actually pretty skillful for a warrior character.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of cool. I'm digging on that.
Proficiencies are always a good thing, and to have them be versatile enough to be like, okay, here's a range of skills or language.
And we're also talking about that 7th level ribbon ability. Well, this is actually a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So with that, we move on to hold the line.
Hold.
So at 10th level, your ability to harass and slow your enemies as a reaction when a creature moves at least 1 foot. So we have it again. 1 foot within 5 foot of you, you can make 1 melee attack against that creature. If you hit that attack's weapon, deal extra damage to the target equal to half your fighter level. The target speed is reduced to 0 for the end of the turn. So it's almost like Sentinel.
You know, the only thing that kind of sucks about that is that specification of within 5 feet, because if you're using a reach weapon, like, it would have been kind of cool to do this with a halberd or glaive or something like that.
If they would have changed it within melee reach or something.
Yeah, within reach of your weapon, within weapon reach or something like that. But it pretty much relegates you to being, like, either a greatsword fighter or sword and board fighter, because your reach weapon isn't particularly
Well,
useful.
I think the idea behind hold the line is someone trying to get past you. Mm-hmm. So if they're rushing by, you can stop their movement at you instead of them just passing.
Right, but I mean, you could, with Sentinel and a polearm, you can do the same thing. So I'm saying that, like, if you could have stopped them 5 feet from you as opposed to right next to you.
That being said, like, then they're definitely making the knight the tank, and you're supposed to draw aggro. So we also have Rapid Strike. This is another one we see a couple different times. I like this ability.
It's a really cool ability, and the short and sweet of it is, anytime you would have advantage, you can choose to use a bonus action and forego rolling with advantage to get an extra attack. Right. So you roll your regular attack, and then you get a bonus melee attack with instead of the advantage.
The problem of the advantage mechanic for that is your knight in armor character, they're not going to surprise things on stealth, so they're probably not getting advantage there on those attacks. Like, only certain spells or very special rare occasions are going to give you advantage for this bonus attack to be actually used. So unless you're playing with flanking rules,
Inspiration.
Well, sure, inspiration or
fire, that kind of stuff,
or flanking rules. Like, if you're playing with flanking rules, these become much more viable choices than prior to.
I think it also could be,
they're blinded. There's a ton of things that come up.
Sure, there's a lot of spell effects and other conditions.
Outside of spells, you could say, all right, well, you're going to do more damage than I am. I'm out of spells. I'm in melee with it as well. I'll do the help action. You now have advantage. I have foregone my attack so that you can get to.
Yeah, okay. Those are the rare instances, but you definitely have to strategize to how.
I don't think they're that rare when you can list like a laundry list of them. So
except all that, it's like basically like the life of Brian. With what besides all that, what have the Romans done for us? Nothing. So sanitation.
I like it anyway.
I think it's cool.
Action economy is more of the problem, in my opinion, than anything.
I'm just kind of, as I said, saddened at the fact that it's in the samurai and in the sharpshooter. It's like, all right,
can we vary it up a little bit?
Vary it up. I mean, it's a nice ability. It happens at 15th level. Getting an extra attack that you might not be able to use. Hey, sure, use those bonus actions. Cool stuff.
So I will say the thing about the knight is like the master of the reaction for a fighter type, because Defender's Blade at 18th level,
yet another use of their reaction.
Right, they actually have too many ways to use the reaction, in my opinion.
Which is why I believe they have that mechanic of you can only use your reaction this turn, or you can use your reaction this turn for each of these things. Right, because each of them has that wording of, if you've already used your reaction for something else, you can still do it for this, as long as you haven't done this turn.
Basically, I think a better wording would basically be like, okay, you can take an attack of opportunity in the turn, and you can also trigger your reaction ability to do this other thing. So, like, this way it's saying, an attack of opportunity is a different thing than any of the suite of abilities you have based on enemy movement.
Right.
So that
Either that or it needs to be specific where it's like each of these, as long as you haven't used your reaction to do this thing,
Right.
it would have been more clarifying.
Right.
It's wonky. You know,
Although with that verbiage, then it's like, well, I have 3 other abilities. Can I use those? Because that's not this thing. That's not this.
Well,
thing.
I feel like that's the intent.
That's what I believe the intent is. You can use your Defender's Blade, the shield spell, and the
Mark.
mark every round as long as you still have the uses. That's my interpretation of it.
Well, you don't need. I don't think you even need it. You got Hold the Line. You have Implacable Mark, and Defender's Blade. You don't need it to include a shield spell.
Oh well,
they've got 3 abilities all by themselves.
That's true.
So yeah, that part is kind of weird. But that being said, so Defender's Blade, 18th level, you respond to danger with extraordinary vigilance. You can use your reaction for an opportunity attack, even if you.
Even if you already expended the
So it's
reaction
just
itself.
for a regular attack of opportunity. Okay. But in addition to that, you also get a +1 bonus while wearing heavy armor.
which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yes, especially if you just happen to... I feel like the Knight is the one that would go defensive anyway.
Yeah, take the +1 from Defender, then +2 shield, and then plate mail armor.
Yeah, without any magic.
it's
I
a
mean, it is
22.
18th level, but without any magic, it's 22. Not too shabby. So with that, we move right on. There's a little sidebar note on Samurai Knights and history.
Which is like, hey, Dix, look, we're just making fantasy knights and samurai. Don't go, such did this. Yaki Mikakawa did this thing as a samurai, and Sir Arthur Dane did this other thing, and this is complete bullshit.
They're like, we are actually, our reference point is movies and comic books. Deal with it.
Yeah.
History nerd.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. So at 3rd level, they get Fighting Spirit. You can use your bonus action. As a bonus action on your turn, you can give yourself 2 benefits. You get advantage on all attack rolls and resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. And it lasts a turn. So there's no limit. So, I do magic damage. Doesn't matter. You still get resistance. Lasts a turn. You can use it. You use the feature 3 times per rest. Pretty awesome in my opinion.
You basically become you're like a fighter barbarian, like, except for a disciplined
For 1
version of
round.
that. Yeah.
For 1 round.
For 1 round.
3 rounds per rest, man.
Yeah, so you can do it. Most encounters are going to be three rounds or less. Most.
Well, getting advantage on attack rolls, plus being a fighter, you're going to have action surges, and plus the rapid strike ability that they get later, which is very similar to the rest.
This one gets to use it much more often.
Because they get to make situations like, I want to be able to do this turn, bam.
Well, the problem with that Rapid Strike is Rapid Strike requires a bonus action, and Fighting Spirit requires a bonus action.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah,
Well, advantage on all your attacks as a fighter is really nice.
Yeah,
Just to be able to call it whenever you feel like it, right?
Yeah. I'll do it now.
Yeah, you can definitely Ginsu, and for that round, the resistance is going to be pretty sweet as well.
Right.
Elegant Courtier, 7th level again. This is what we're calling the ribbon ability, and as with all the other ones, it's just going to give you more proficiency.
Well, and the wisdom bonus to charisma checks, because a fighter is more likely to give themselves a higher wisdom than a charisma. So having that bonus is super handy.
Yeah, it's very specific though, but yeah, I agree. It is a nice little add-on, and it also differentiates it from the other ones. You can add your wisdom modifier to any charisma check you make to persuade or please a noble or anyone of high social station. So it's very specific, but it's kind of cool and thematic.
Yeah, it's nifty.
So getting 2 stat modifiers to a skill in specific situations is cool. Now, wisdom and charisma are usually not ones that you have high stats in if you're playing the fightery type, but it's a way of compensating, in my opinion.
Yeah,
compensating for something.
Yeah, and they get a skill, and we're good with that. And then we move on to
right. And alternatively, they could also swap that skill for a language.
Yeah,
I believe the Knight can do the same as well.
Yes.
Yeah, all of them. They gave them the out of like, well, if you got this from other sources, then you can just take a language.
So it's kind of cool. Unbreakable Will. So that's the 10th level ability. Your superior willpower allows you to shrug off mind-assaulting effects. You gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws. If you have already had proficiency, you gain proficiency in intelligence or charisma saving throws. Choose one. That's actually a pretty badass ability.
Getting an extra saving throw proficiency.
Yes.
That is
Massive,
awesome.
yeah.
Like, if I was playing a samurai, it just makes me want to take resilient. just because it's not really a skill that I often think about taking.
But to be very insulated from a lot of saving throws,
Yeah,
you're, like,
it's kinda
proficient
cool.
in everything.
Yeah, as a fighter, you have strength and con already. Adding wisdom to that is the other good saving throw.
And take dexterity would be the other.
Was resilient. Yeah, you've got all the main ones covered.
I'm just not proficient in intelligence and charisma. How often are those going to come up?
You fight
Every
illusions.
time now.
Illusions all the
Elephants
time.
everywhere.
So then we move on to Rapid Strike, as we've gone over before. This is the one where you can get rid of the advantage.
It almost seems super cool here, but it's not.
But you know who really pairs well with all these Rapid Striker?
Battlemaster?
The Mastermind. And the Mastermind.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because as a bonus action, he can say, hey, you have advantage on your next strike.
Oh, look, there's somewhere else that you can get advantage.
there we
Or
are.
a Battlemaster that's tripping and doing things like that.
Well, anybody that's prone, really. Although you're kind of a shitty knight or samurai if you're beating the crap out of downed intelligent foes. Monsters is one thing, but you're a real shit samurai if you're like, oh, he's down, let me murder him. Well, unless you're playing Gregor Clegane as a knight. Yeah.
Hey, there's a reason why they say he fell. It's it's kind of basically saying he died.
Yeah.
Because they went like this. when he
all
fell
right,
in.
now this kind of goes back to what they said earlier, or kind of goes against what they said, samurai knights in history, right?
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, in actual medieval combat, the idea was to get the guy down so you could kill him.
Yeah.
Because of the armor. That was
Right.
the most effective way. They would smash the joint on the armor to make it inoperable. They would knock them over so they could get a stiletto through the visor. So even though you say that, the truth of the matter was they would knock them over to kill them.
All right, this is a deeper debate, but there really weren't that many knights because it was so expensive to outfit them.
To be a knight,
Most
yeah.
people were foot soldiers that would do all the stabbing. Like the knight would do the dirty work of knocking them down. They wouldn't sully themselves. It was the guys with the pikes and like the daggers that would go stiletto them. So because
All
the
right.
knight, yeah. Anyway.
Now we move on to the 18th level ability, and in my opinion, the best thing of all of this entire document: Strength Before Death. At 18th level, when you would be knocked to 0 hit points or below, you can interrupt the entire initiative order and say, you know what? Before I take this damage, I'm going to take a full turn.
I'm gonna let you finish, but first, and you go all Kanye on them.
No. You don't get to finish.
Yeah.
Everything stops, and
Yes.
you get to all right. I'm a fighter. Now I've got the ability to either let me insert some way to save myself, or I'm just going to go hog wild.
You mean like second wind?
Well, maybe the second wind might not be enough hit points to
It's gonna
save
be-
you.
It's better to take everyone
18?
with you. I think.
18. It's a bonus action. The second wind.
So
18 plus the die 10.
Couldn't you also cheese it and use a bonus action to? Because what is this, a reaction, or is it just you can do it?
no, it's not. It doesn't take
It's just
anything.
I'm interrupting.
You
the
just
turn.
interrupt everything.
Well, couldn't you just use your 3rd level fighting spirit ability and get resistance, and then be like if it was like 30 damage or something?
yes.
You could do that too. If it's going to be enough to save you, yes, you can do that.
And then
But-
you get advantage on all your attacks.
But
You have options.
you have options, so you can do
Yeah.
that. You can then also say, okay, well, since I've now broken the order, I haven't used my action surge yet. I'm going to make 6 attacks because I'm an 18th level fighter. Because I'm gonna, rah!
Yeah, but I mean, this is very like cinematic of like the samurai that goes out and is like taking arrow after arrow after arrow after arrow and like just cutting people down.
That's 4 times 2. That would be 8 attacks.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought. Yeah, 8 attacks then. I didn't realize it went up to 4 at that level.
It does go up to 4. Now, I don't know what level they get the 4th attack, but by 18th, I'm thinking they probably have it. Yeah, and like Ryan said, it is very somatic with the samurai, going ballistic, right before
the end.
But he's got 2 ways that may or may not have just saved him anyway, so he can keep going, which is kind of ridiculous. And my question is that an extra bonus action, right? Because it says you immediately take a new turn, right?
You take a turn.
That's
so
include
you
everything.
you would still have your turn in the scope of the. You'd have your round in the scope of the turn wherever the initiative order fell. Just for that moment, you insert an extra block and
Round of actions.
Now, here's why I asked. The question is, right, you've already used your bonus action to use Fighting Spirit to give yourself advantage on all your attacks. Does that apply to this turn? Because it immediately interrupts what happens.
Yes, when you would go either prior to or after, you would still have. Yes.
So you could use Rapid Strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
You could
next
use
round.
you could use rapid strike when your initiative order would come up if you were going after this creature.
Yeah, if you've already
But
if
if
you've
you're-
already activated it for the turn.
If on the bonus turn that you're taking, you initiate fighting spirit to give you.
No, I'm saying
you've already had it active.
you've already activated it.
Oh, if you activated it before you dropped?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're getting 9 attacks off before you go down. Well, I mean, it'd be really awesome to have the person like go down too. Like the party's probably gonna get them back up because it's just done a shit ton of damage.
Yeah, you would get 9 at that point in time, and one of them wouldn't be with advantage.
Yes. I'm just saying, it was just yet another way to use Rapid Strike, and this guy can actually give it to himself somehow. But it's like
in a very like last resort sort of way. Yeah. Strength before death. I feel like a lot of the names of these things, like there's a few of them that I'm like, they could have come up with a cooler, more flavorful name. Like a lot of these names feel like placeholders for it.
No, I can't say enough good things about Strength Before
But
Death.
I don't know, not on the Samurai, like Rapid
Strike is they've used it throughout. So
Yeah, the Rapid Strike one is like the lamest name for Samurai, but all the other ones work. Unbreakable
Fighting
Wills.
Spirit, Elegant Courtier, Unbreakable Will, Strength Before Death.
So with that, we're moving on to Sharpshooter, and Sharpshooter and Knight. There's one instance where I kind of I take issue with one of their special abilities for the same reason.
Okay.
let's go into it.
So let's go right to Steady Aim, and then I can jump into that part. So basically on Steady Aim, it gives them, they can activate it as a bonus action, and it gives them 2 different effects that they then get to target an individual.
The attack ignores half and 3/4 cover, and on each hit they do plus 2 damage and half their fighter level.
So it's kind of like, it's like a mark, right? It's kind of like a ranged mark, because you pick the creature and then you activate this as a bonus action, in a sense.
I'm gonna read Steady.
And so here's where I take the issue. It kind of invalidates 2 feats that both of those classes might normally want to take.
Yeah.
Like Sentinel becomes better than the actual ability in essence. So it's like, well, if you take Sentinel because it's better, it kind of walls you off from one of your class features. In this one, if you take Sharpshooter, Sharpshooter, you're an archer. What are the chances you're not taking Sharpshooter? It makes half of this ability useless. The extra damage is still good, but you already ignore half cover and 3/4 cover.
Well, you get other stuff from Sharpshooter, though, right? Besides just ignoring cover.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you get to do the thing where it deals an extra 10 points of damage by taking -5 to the attack.
So
and long range.
I think what they're trying to do is I think they were trying to work some of that feat in there for the thing that some people were taking it for. So if not everybody wants to take that -5 to +10 damage, then they don't need to take the feat.
Right, or if they don't, but Sharpshooter also lets you ignore disadvantage at long range. So
it's whether you think those 2 abilities are worth it for the feat.
they still totally are. What I'm saying is, it cheapens.
it steps on the toe of the feet.
Of the class feature.
Well, the Knight's Sentinel. I mean, the Knight's Hold the Line ability does the similar thing to Sentinel. So.
Right, now Sentinel is less of an issue because you might have gone that way, you might not have gone that way. Sharpshooter, it is absolutely, you pretty much boned them, because
Yes.
what's the point of being an archer if you're using feats in your game and not taking the Sharpshooter feat?
Although I will say, so you get that extra 10 points of damage from Sharpshooters if you're willing to take the -5 in the right circumstance. And then you get to add an extra, so you go to the 20th level, another 12. So 22 points of damage plus die roll. That's that's nothing
It is absolutely
yeah.
good. I'm just saying, like, the overlap is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Well, this is only an activated ability as well, so you don't get it all the time. Whereas Sharpshooter, you get the ability all the time.
Yeah, so you burn uses of this, so that's another.
My point is, like, you're totally missing my argument. The argument is,
I understand. You're probably going to take this. You're a Sharpshooter.
But the most logical class to take for a dwarf is fighter. Yet some of its racial abilities already give you things that you get as fighter. Overlap happens. Like the additions, like, sorry, and at least with these builds, they were nice. Of like, if you already get that skill, take one of these other, or they give you a menu of.
And if you're not playing with feats, you're kind of out of luck for making a Sharpshooter
until you have this.
you have this option.
Yeah.
So.
Well, for that, it's absolutely good.
Yeah.
But if your DM's not letting you take feats, I don't think he's going to let you dig into Unearth Arcana.
Yeah, maybe.
That's a good point.
So that's my only thing. The ability, you get to use it 3 times, and you regain it after you've finished a short or long rest. Like a lot of things, score. You can make your archer character. We move on to
so the one thing though that I want to discuss a little bit, because it's a rules discussion that happened with the dagger build, that there's a difference between thrown weapons and ranged weapons. So I feel like what this is saying is that you can only use like a strictly ranged weapon like a crossbow or a bow, whereas like I would want to do a hatchet thrower or a dagger thrower or something, or a spear thrower. And I don't know if these abilities are also meant to be for those sort of archery.
So I'd have to look up what the actual difference is, and I wouldn't see why you couldn't take these kind of things and apply it to I'm throwing daggers.
Because it says ranged weapon.
Yeah, ranged weapon is different from a thrown weapon, and it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks because this would make for a really fun like dagger hurler character.
Now the sharpshooter feat for that build does work. It's just again you don't access the whole part of the feat. I think it's the damage that you can't access. Everything else you get access to. Just because of the wording. 5th edition has a ton of nuance like that it's easy to overlook.
You need a law degree to decipher some of the exact distinctions.
I just don't see
what would be game breaking about allowing
allowing it to be for a dagger thrower.
Well, that's your DM fee out, but we're talking about rules as written.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Right, now this is one of the ones I absolutely thought could stand to be renamed. Careful Eyes. Hey, I packed your Careful Eyes, like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head from Toy Story. Yeah.
So 7th level, you excel at picking out hidden enemies and other threats. You can make the search action as a bonus action, and you gain proficiency in either perception, investigation, or survival.
Now this is definitely a cool feature.
This is like the sniper. Like this is you're searching. You get to search as a bonus action to do that,
yeah.
Right? So like you're looking for a target to pick off to go to take out, and so again the sharpshooter feat because you have that massive range with a longbow of like 600 feet.
So my character that I played in the non-nerdarchy game would have loved to have that feature.
Yeah. So you would just maybe take that and play this class or something like that.
Well, I mean he was a ranger rogue.
Seven level fighters could work. 7 levels of fighter could work.
8 levels for the 2 feats.
So we have close quarters shooting at 10th level. You learn to handle yourself in close combat. Making a ranged attack roll within 5 feet of your enemy doesn't impose disadvantage on your attack roll. So this is cool because you don't have to take crossbow expert now to get that benefit. You're going to get it as part of your class.
Although that being said, you do need crossbow expert to deal with the loading part of like say a heavy crossbow. So you're going to want to pick up that feat anyway.
Well, no, I'm saying crossbow expert actually works for other ranged weapons as well.
Yeah. Well,
even spellcasting.
The loading, the loading feature is removing that is priority number 1 for a crossbow-oriented archer.
Yes. In addition, if you hit a creature within 5 feet of you with a ranged attack on your turn, that creature can't take reactions until the end of this turn, which is nice. That means you shoot him in the face and run away.
Yeah.
And he can't take an attack of opportunity.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of you use this on the spellcasters who can't cast shield.
Yeah, oh no.
Yeah.
Ted's thinking, finally, you bastards, I got you now.
Yeah, I'm going to just build him in these classes.
15th level, yet another iteration of Rapid Strike.
Yes.
Bonus action to trade advantage for another attack.
Yeah. Now, what makes sense for this is you're likely, since you're very snipery, to have snuck somewhere, so you're going to be attacked for advantage. Dipping into rogue, not a bad idea with this class for sneak attack damage and stealth and things like that. So you'd have to figure out what the optimal thing to do with that is. But that being said, you're likely to give yourself advantage from attacking from cover.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we go into Snapshot. Starting at 18th level, you are ever ready to spring into action. If you take the attack action on your first turn of a combat, you can make 1 additional ranged attack as part of that action.
5 attacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta have the arrows in your hand for that one.
And then, and that's 9 if you action surge.
You should absolutely action surge. There's no reason not to.
Just because.
The only thing I'm saying is it's a shame that it's an 18th level ability, because if you could have 3 levels of rogue to assassin, oh my word. Yeah. That would
I think they
saw
yeah,
that.
oh yeah. No, that's a reason to absolutely not allow that.
But how does that work with the revised Ranger? They have an ability that that happens. Oh wait a minute, that's still third level as well. Yeah,
That
so
doesn't matter.
Yeah, then it's not an issue.
if it's well, you know what? I don't know if it's the archetype or if it's the base class, because it's an unearthed arcana as well, and I kind of think it's the first.
No,
level
I think
ability.
it's the first level ability they get where they totally
Ambusher or something
Yeah,
like that,
where
yeah.
they've totally retconned. What's the first level ability? Terrain, something terrain.
Natural Explorer.
Natural Explorer.
Yeah.
That's right. Natural, and I didn't even have the right word for that. So Natural Explorer. I mean, they went a little too far, but yeah, the Ambusher part is a part of that first level ability. So
You'd have to look and see how that
Snapshot
stacks
might
with that.
be really
If you're making a 20th level character or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And you can always dip for one level, and it doesn't really hurt anything as far as your character builds.
There you go. You want the machine gun with the longbow. That's how you can do it.
Or heavy crossbow, as the case may be.
So yeah, what do you guys think of this Unearthed Arcana? Let us know what you think in the description below. If there's anything you disagree with, obviously the comments is the perfect place to put that. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can hang out with us over at nerdarchy.com.
Let's check out the store while you're there.
Or you can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time.
Stay nerdy.
You do your thing a couple times, and then they bring in the next shift, and then you just rotate them out.
Yeah, yeah. No, that absolutely works, and I could absolutely see in the way that Martial Adept feat works. I could see a feat that gives you some of the capability of this build, as maybe you get one or two of the capabilities of the arrow and maybe a use per short rest or something like that. So to get the flavor of the Arcane Archer without going full bore into the archetype.
Right.
So when you use the arcane, your arcane shot, right? You always do the extra damage, the 2d6 force damage.
You get the extra damage, and you get one of these effects.
So so that's the other thing. Like you're getting an effect that you like twice per short rest. You're doing 2d6 bonus damage. You're getting an effect at 18th level. You get deadly shot, which increases it by
Increases it to 4d6.
increases it to 4d6. And one of the shots is one where you actually increase the damage anyway. So like you can hit hard twice.
It's like arrow smiting.
It is like an arrow of smiting. For that paladin that wanted to be ranged that couldn't, so he had to be a fighter. You get a list of arcane shots. You have beguiling arrow, you have brute bane arrow, you have bursting arrow, defending arrow, grasping arrow, piercing arrow, seeking arrow, shadow arrow, and they have a multitude of different combat control. To refer to our infuriating spells video.
Yes. Yeah, unless you're gonna Liam in this tiny hut. Yeah.
Up you go.
Or rope trick it.
Rope trick, yeah. So, yeah, like Ted said, it's going to depend a lot on your play style. That being said, the abilities that you're given are really cool. The arcane shots, they're fun, they're flavorful. They give you cool abilities that aren't actually spells, but they're very spell-like.
Now, the fighters, they get their archetypes at 3rd level, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you get the ability to create a magic arrow at 3rd level, which, some of the other classes don't get the magic effect until much later. Typically 5th, 6th level, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 5th level is Druid and Monk.
Having it at 3rd, that's an advantage, especially for the fighter who is supposed to be the one dishing out damage.
Now, the only problem with this one is, like we mentioned, is in a combat you get you can bust out 2 magic arrows. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you can also use your arcane shot feature, which is really cool. And you start out, you get 2 of them. In some ways, it kind of mimics the Battle Master.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they've reflavored it so it doesn't feel like that at all.
Right.
At 3rd level, you also get a couple skills. I like that part about it as well. You get 2 instead of 1, like the Battle Master. So you're going to get you're a little bit more.
Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nericus Ryan. I'm staying joined by
Nerex Stave.
Nathan Ardark.
Ted?
Join us as we fight through this latest Unearthed Arcana.
Jump down in the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter. Get weekly tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Alright, so we get yet another Unearthed Arcana. This time we're focusing on the fighter. And we get a deviation from the norm because now we get 4.
We are getting 4 of the fighter, which there's already a bunch of anyway. Right? There's literally 4 official ones. And then we also have a couple Unearthed Arcanas as well.
Right.
But I will say, the knight that they put into this unearthed kind of blows the cavalier out of the water. Is a much better cavalier.
I will say that once we actually get through it, there is a repeat ability across the second through fourth.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, I mean, it's nice ability, but in a discussion Ryan and I were having, it's like, how often is that going to come up?
Yeah, well, we'll cross that bridge once we get to it. Once we go to that drawbridge.
All right, so first we have the Arcane Archer, which is a repeat from 3rd edition.
Yes, I actually thought this one was pretty freaking amazing. This was a really solid archetype, and they did a good job of bringing back the Arcane Archer without actually making him a spellcaster.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, so I would have loved to have had the prestige classes from 3rd edition handy to look at it, but unfortunately Ted didn't have it handy right now. It's in the attic, but at some point we'll be able to do that. So
I've got so many books.
So I think it was Ronan Gregg said something about he had a problem with it. You only get to use the ability twice up until 15th level as far as their archery thing, but they get it back there after a short rest, right?
Right.
So you get it a bunch of times.
If you get in your short rest, like the Warlock, if you get in your short rest, it's really great.
The play style is going to really determine how you're actually playing in your game. If you're not taking short rests, well, then all of the reset abilities are going to be wonky for you.
And I would say, as a rule, like 2 or 3 short rests during the session of the average adventuring day, like that seems reasonable that your players would get 2 to 3. You're gonna stop for meals. You're gonna get off your feet for a little bit. I mean, unless you're force marching somewhere, like you're probably gonna stop 2 or 3 times in the day.
Yeah, when I think of our own camp, so we don't do a lot of encounters,
right?
So that's what it comes down to is like how long are your game sessions and how many encounters are you doing? Like if you're doing a dungeon crawl, then yeah, this kind of stuff is brutal because in a dungeon crawl there probably isn't a lot of time for taking.
There's no safe places.
Yeah,
safe spaces.
You're not going to be well. We've got more versatile in that regards as far as fighters go. You're probably not going to ever run out of arrows once you hit 7th level because you can always just summon them.
Yeah. Boom! I got arrows.
So they kind of threw that in there.
Well, that's a ribbon ability, but it's cool.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Well, 7th level across fighter is typically the ribbon ability.
Yeah.
15th level, you get Ever Ready Arrow. Conjure forth a magic infused arrow more often than before. 1 minute after expending the last remaining use of your arcane arrow, you gain 1 use of it. So instead of being like every short rest, you're going to get basically
twice the combat.
Well, no, twice, and then you'll have 1 a minute later.
1 arrow,
always every minute is kind of the thing. You always at least have 1 in your back pocket if you have a minute between fights, basically.
So this makes them a powerful drawn-out siege or campaign, kind of where you're on battlements or something. But for a regular adventure, you probably only get maybe 1.
Yeah, a unit of arcane archers would be of 15th level would be devastating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 15th level.
Unit of anything, 15th level would be.
So you get everyone's going to sing tales about you because you never run out of arrows and they do awesome things.
Yeah, but no. That being said, like even at 3rd level, a unit of these guys in that instance where you literally could take a short rest, even though there's a war going on, you go out.